Oliver Shepherd was no different from many others who crowded the bustling streets of London. He was 38 years old, with a career that many would consider successful as the director of a law firm, and he lived in a luxurious apartment overlooking the Thames. His life seemed perfect from the outside. Dinners with colleagues in the city's most exclusive restaurants, summer holidays in the most sought-after destinations, and his constant presence in the most influential social circles made him a sought-after figure. But as the city lights went out, and the deafening noise of the metropolis faded into the silence of the night, Oliver felt empty. An emptiness he couldn't explain, but which became more and more suffocating. Want to find out how Oliver will deal with this feeling of emptiness and find a new direction in his life? Stay with us for a surprising revelation. Rain was a constant companion on his nightly walks. He loved wandering the streets of the city after long days of work, watching people hurry home, reflecting on their lives. One evening, as he was walking through the small park of Hyde Park, he heard the gentle sound of raindrops falling on the leaves of the trees. The scent of wet earth filled the air, and the distant sound of cars was almost like a melody in the background. The moment seemed suspended in time. Just then, Oliver stopped in front of a figure sitting on a bench. Don't miss out on more insightful and inspiring stories like this. Subscribe to our channel to stay up to date with new content. He was a man in his 60s, with gray hair and a simple appearance. He wore modest clothes, a weathered jacket, and shoes that had been walked for miles. Despite his humble appearance, there was a serenity in his eyes, as if he had found something that Oliver couldn't understand. "Don't you think silence is the greatest teacher?" the man said, not even looking at him directly, as if he had read his thoughts. Oliver looked at him for a moment, surprised by the words. What could this man know about him, about his emptiness? "I've never found much in silence," Oliver replied, sitting down next to him. "Only unanswered questions." The man smiled slightly. "That's where you go wrong. Silence doesn't need answers. Silence invites you to listen to what the noise of the world prevents you from hearing." Oliver remained silent, letting the words echo in his mind. What did it mean to listen to silence? He was used to looking for immediate answers, quick solutions to any problem. This was what his job was based on, solving the complex issues of his clients. But the emptiness he felt inside himself seemed like an unsolvable riddle. "Have you ever really stopped to look inside yourself? Without fear?" the man asked, finally turning to look Oliver in the eye. For the first time in a long time, Oliver didn't know what to say. The question hit him hard. He had never thought to really look at himself, to explore that emptiness that tormented him. He spent his days distracting himself with work, his evenings filling that emptiness with dinners and parties. But now, sitting next to that perfect stranger, he felt as if someone had finally touched the heart of the problem. What do you think of silence? Have you ever tried to really listen to it? Tell us about your experience in the comments. After a few minutes, the man stood up, and before leaving he said, "There is a place not far from here where you can start finding your answers. A meditation center. Don't expect immediate solutions, but you may find something much more valuable." He left a small note in Oliver's hands, with an address scrawled on it. Then he disappeared into the shadows of the park. For days, Oliver stared at the note, not knowing what to do. Every part of him resisted the idea of going to a meditation center. He was a rational man, a professional. He didn't believe in those things. But the thought of continuing to live with that sense of emptiness scared him more. So one Friday night, he decided to go. The center was tucked away in a quiet corner of town, on a small street that Oliver had never noticed before. There were no neon signs, just a simple wooden door. When he entered, he was greeted by a young woman, dressed in simple but clean clothes. She offered him a smile and showed him to a room where he could sit and begin to meditate. Have you ever considered meditation to find inner answers? It might surprise you. Find out how to get started today. The interior of the center was unlike anywhere Oliver had ever seen. It was simple, essential. The floors were light wood, there were pillows scattered here and there, and the light was soft, filtered through large windows that looked out onto an internal garden. The air was fresh, and there was a faint scent of incense that filled the room. There were no sounds, only the sound of the breathing of the people sitting in meditation. Oliver sat on a pillow and closed his eyes, trying to calm his mind, but his thoughts continued to race. Work, his responsibilities, his complicated relationships. He felt his heart pounding and his anxiety rising. But he remembered the words of that man in the park. Silence invites you to listen. Over time, Oliver began to attend the meditation center more regularly. Each time he found himself struggling with his thoughts, but slowly he began to notice a change. The emptiness inside him no longer seemed so scary. Instead, he began to see it as a space where he could explore himself, without judgment, without fear. One evening, after a particularly deep meditation session, he realized something surprising. The void he had always tried to fill wasn't a problem to be solved, but an opportunity to discover who he really was. His life, built on a successful career and the expectations of others, didn't reflect his true self. And for the first time, he felt that was okay. He didn't need immediate answers. He just needed to embrace the journey. Here's the secret Oliver discovered. Emptiness isn't something to be feared, but explored. What about you? Are you ready to explore your inner emptiness? The change in Oliver wasn't immediate, nor was it radical. He continued to work, to live in London, but he began to see the world differently. Things that had once stressed him and made him feel trapped now appeared in a new light. He began to slow down, to enjoy the little moments, a quiet walk along the river, his morning coffee with the sound of rain in the background. He was no longer looking for something external to fill the void. He had learned to find peace in the simple act of being. Every now and then, he returned to the park where he had first met the man, but he never saw him again. Maybe it had been a chance encounter, maybe not. But it didn't matter. That brief exchange had triggered something inside him, a shift that had led him to explore depths he didn't even know existed. Oliver Shepherd was no longer afraid of the void. He knew that void was part of him, part of his growth, part of his discovery. And in that void, he had found the answers he had been searching for so long. Life isn't just about instant answers. Often, the most important answers are found in the journey. Sign up for more stories that inspire you to explore your own inner journey.